Hello and welcome to this course where we're going to do a deep dive on Laravel Queues from beginner to actually mastering the subject. In this course we're going to do a couple of stuff. We're going to build up our queue knowledge from the most basic concepts up until to all the advanced concepts that Laravel offers regarding queues, including the testing facilities. We're going to build a couple of mini projects, image importer and resizer and converter, and we're going to build a Word to PDF converter, and of course we're going to use PHP Storm to do that task, and we're going to use advanced Laravel topics like Laravel job chains, job batches, and more topics that we'll touch. And for the final chapters of the course, we're going to use a special package, a couple of packages actually. We're going to install Laravel Horizon and see how that works with monitoring and debugging our queues. And we're going to install Laravel Venture, which is a workflow-based queue jobs programming for Laravel that's based on Laravel Queues actually. But it's a much richer ecosystem for queues. And I wanna thank you for taking that course. I would also like to offer you a discount in the description. You can get a 50% discount when you click on that button and go to my Udemy course, since this is only 2 hours out of 6 hours of the full course. So I would like to thank you again, and I hope you enjoy. And if you have any comments or insights, or you would like to share something, please write in the comment section, and I will do my best and try to answer all of your questions. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to do an introduction to Laravel Queues, why they are used in the first place, how to configure them, since Laravel installations come with these queue abilities prepackaged on every new Laravel installation besides Lumen, but we won't discuss Lumen since Lumen is pretty much will be reaching end of life, I think, because you can for the moment do with Laravel everything that you do with Lumen. You can use a stripped version of Laravel with only API functionality, which you couldn't do in the past, but for the last couple of versions of Laravel you can do that. So we're not going to discuss how to use that with Lumen, since in order to use that with Lumen, by the way, you have to enable a couple of stuff on the application bootstrap process. But that doesn't matter for the course because we are going to focus mainly on Laravel. So just before we start, we're gonna set up a new Laravel project with Composer create project. After that, we're going to do PHP artisan sail install, and this will, by the way, will cause the package of Laravel sail to pre-configure with our application, since it also comes pre-installed with that package, Laravel I mean. And Sail is a development environment using Docker for Laravel. So we can pretty much achieve the same functionality or same environment that we'll use on our servers on our computers. For example, when we'll go over the ability to listen to queue events, we will initiate Sail commands to monitor the queue events and operate on them. For example, we will work with supervisor, which also comes pre-installed in the Docker version of Laravel Sail. So all we need to do is just basically attach to the container and view the worker as it works. And we're also gonna add another worker because it doesn't come predefined with more workers. So we'll add a custom worker which will work on it, and we'll see how to do that in production also. So after we install Sail, we will use this command, which is how to, I'm going to show you what happens when I do it. It automatically starts Docker containers for our application. And I already, when I clicked PHP Artisan Sail install, I told him that I want MySQL, Redis, mail server, and it automatically installed supervisor-d. And this installation uses Mailpit. Mailpit is a mail catcher for development environments, so you can see the mail that you are sending. If I'll click it here, you see that it automatically waits for emails to be sent, which is excellent, because previously you had to catch the mails in your application, and now you can just use it. And we will see what are the benefits of using the mail catcher in your application, since in one of the lessons we are going to do a simulation of user pressing a button and waiting for the mail to send, and what happens in terms of user experience, what happens in the server when he presses that button, and what is better to do, and why. While we see that, we understand why queues and background jobs are very important in web applications, and in any application, by the way. Any application that you have some kind of an interface between you and the user, between your application and the user, it's important that the interface will be responsive. If that interface is a web interface like we have here, for example, it's important that when I click on buttons, that the user perception of the application will be super fast. Not the perception itself, but what the user gets when he clicks that button. The feedback should be very fast. For example, if I click send email, then the operation should complete immediately. I should get the feedback that the operation initiated, but the operation itself will be in the background. And this is why queues are very important for the perception of the user and for many other use cases. For example, what happens if that email sending is failed? If you are not saving that operation in some kind of a log, audit log, or action log, then there is no way for you to restore that. But if you are using queue jobs and that operation failed, there are many ways you can restore that operation and rerun it. So this is another benefit of using the queues. So let's get started with our next lesson on what are the differences in Laravel and what is the terminology Laravel is using for queues. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to discuss the basic terminology that Laravel uses when we speak about queues. So first of all, I opened the queue config file that exists in every Laravel application besides Laravel 11, since there it will be mostly based on environment variables, but you can still restore the config files when you need them. So let's start with what Laravel calls connections and drivers. Okay, Laravel has a distinction between a connection and a driver and a queue job. What I mean by distinction is when we speak about connection and driver, that's basically the same, because connection is the driver, and the real distinction is between the connection/driver to queue. And queue is like a bucket. Okay, it's a named bucket where you put your jobs that you want to have in that bucket, that you want to process for a later time, for example. And the connection/driver is the mechanism through which the bucket will be processed. For example, out of the box you have a couple of connections, and from this point forward I'm going to refer to them as connections and won't do the distinctions between them and drivers. So the default connection is sync, which means synchronous, which means that it won't fire a database, it won't fire a queue job. It will it will fire the queue job, but the process will be synchronous and not asynchronous. So that means that your application thread will be blocked until that process finishes. Okay, and that is the major distinction between the synchronous connection and the rest of them, because the rest of them are asynchronous. For example, you have the database, Redis, SQS, and beanstalk connection out of the box. And there are a couple of differences between them, because, for example, the database connection is free because it's on your local or server database. Beanstalk is also free, Redis is also free, and SQS costs money. And if, by the way, you put null in the database connection, that means that the jobs will be discarded. So you will have to pay attention to that also. And you set it up, this environment variable, in the env file, and the default is sync. And right here in that file, on the queue file, you have a couple of parameters that you set up per driver. For example, the database driver, you will have to also run a special command for that table to be migrated, to be on your list, on your tables in the database that you use. For Redis and rest of queues, you don't have to run that job, but you will have to run a special artisan command for fail jobs. So you will have a place where you see if some jobs failed, and later when we will install Laravel Horizon, we will have a nice user interface to see which jobs have succeeded, which have failed. We'll have overview, and we can also restart and retrieve, in Laravel terminology, retrieve those jobs. And we'll continue from that. You also have a couple of other configurations here for job batching and failed table jobs, but we'll see it when we'll get there. So let's just do PHP artisan queue. Let's see what options we have. So basically the options, like I said, is to create the tables, and we have a couple of extra options. We have deleting all the jobs from a specific queue. Like if we have a queue for emails, we can delete only the emails. We have the ability to create the migration for the failed jobs. We have ability to list the failed jobs. We can flush specific queue or all the queues. We can delete right from here, not just clear. Clear deletes all the jobs, even those that haven't started yet. We can run the monitor command to monitor them. We can prune. When we'll get to batches and we'll understand what that means, we'll use some of those commands just to get a feeling of how that works. We can also, and we should also, restart the queue after we do code changes, but that also depends if we use Laravel Octane and different versions of Octane, because when we run Octane, the files are loaded into memory. So we're not just starting the queue, we'll also have to restart Octane. And yeah, this is the command to create a migration for the queue jobs database when we work with the database, because if we work with Redis, we don't have to run that, because it stores in Redis in a special key value format for those tables. So that was it for this lesson, where we did a quick overview of what are the differences in the terminology of Laravel Queues, and we'll continue with the next lesson. So thank you. Hi, and welcome to this lesson, where we're going to work on creating our first queue job. And after we create it, we're going to discuss a couple of things and a couple of gotchas that we need to look after when we deal with queue jobs. So first of all, let me leave that as open, the queue connection, because I want to show you the difference between the jobs. when I'll dispatch them. Let me open PHP artisan help make job. Now usually I don't run help on the before the command that I run, but for the course I want to show you the options that you have, because sometimes the version gets updated and I'm not sure that you or other developers read the upgrade and the release notes, and new functionality is being added and old functionality is being removed. So when you run the helper, for example here, it shows you what options you have. For example, you can generate an accompanying PES test or PHP unit test. You can force it to be synchronous, which basically means that it will remove a trait, should queue trait from the job. Okay, so that is important for you to learn to use that command, but we're going to run that without the command now to create a basic job, and we'll go over the class of the structure of the class and the gotchas that we have to pay attention to. So let's create an email. I'm gonna call it daily emails. Okay, and you see it created them, and that directory app jobs previously wasn't there, but for if it doesn't exist for new jobs, it creates it. And just before that, let me initiate a Git repository, so I can push that repository to GitHub and share with you, and so you will see the differences between each commit. I'm gonna do that via PHP Storm, but I can do it also via the terminal. I can just open the new terminal that I have, and I can run git status to see that there is no git here, but I do have a git ignore here, since every Laravel installation comes with that by default. And I can do git init to initialize the repository, git add everything to the repository, and git commit initialized the repository. Okay, and just come here. It should automatically update in PHP Storm, and here it's updated. Okay, and it should also, because I committed everything, you see if I'll do a change, it will automatically show it in the gutter, and it will show it in the file browser that something has changed. So we're going to use that. Okay, now for the next thing, let's go check the job that is created and the structure of the class. So the first thing, let me reformat that, because I like this formatting. The first thing you should notice is that it implements should queue, and it has the trait of queuable. So that means this job, if you remember from the previous example, I told you that if we'll do this, then the should queue would not be used. It will be a regular job. It will be a synchronous job. Let me create another job, sync. I'm gonna add the sync and the sync here, and you see it doesn't implement the should queue, and there is no queuable trait. Okay, this is also useful for the purpose of separation of concerns and loose coupling, but we're not going to use that, because we can still use the job as sync, because right here, sorry, not that file, because right here the connection is sync. Okay, so the jobs will be synchronous no matter what we do. Let me just close that and close that, and let me delete that file because I'm not going to use it. I just want to show you. So what do we have here? We have a couple of traits that are usable for the job at hand. For example, the dispatchable is the trait that makes this queue dispatchable. those both traits are the traits that send it to a queue, tell what jobs failed, what is the job status and stuff like that. And this trait is very important because when we'll get to the part that will pass in an eloquent model here, for example, when we do jobs that operate on users and we dispatch this job with a specific user, we'll have to take some stuff into consideration. For example, the models are being serialized, which means they are being saved in a special format because this job metadata will be saved either into the database, either into Redis or other queue connection that we'll use. But the metadata, and you can imagine why it's important to serialize it, because let me just close that. I'm gonna always add. When you take a big, for example, if the user object was very big and he had relationships with other tables in Laravel, and those were supposed to be eager loaded or lazy loaded, no matter what, or you had some restrictions on that user object, those stuff need to be serialized, because when the queue connection fetches that job, daily emails, for example, you need to fetch that user also, because you are passing it when you dispatch that job, either via the kernel or via route or some other mechanism. But the important thing here that you have to take that into consideration when you dispatch that job, because if you put some constraints on your user, or if you only need a subset of that data, you better use that subset. If you won't be careful, you can load many tables just for one job. So we'll see what do I mean by that when we'll get there. So basically, when you dispatch that job somewhere in your code, it looks like this: daily emails, dispatch, and you pass the user. Okay, this is how you call that job. And you can also call that from controller with this and dispatch. Okay, it doesn't exist here because it's not a controller, but you can also dispatch it like that. But when you do that, it serializes that user, and when the scheduler or the queue listener calls that job, gets that from the database, from Redis or other connection, it needs to unserialize that user. It needs to get the relationships, and this is what that trait does: serializes models. Okay, if you want to dig in the code, you will understand how it does that, but this is the responsibility of that trait. Okay, let me just remove that, and let's go to the handle method. Now the handle method is where you do your work basically on that user. Let's say you need to send a mail. Okay, mail to this user. I'm gonna save that just for the example. I'm gonna initialize, and I'm using here shortcuts by PHP Stone, which is very nice. Okay, I'm gonna mail that user that email. Let's pretend that I do have actually, not pretend, because the user is authenticatable. I do have the email property, and I'm gonna do a send, some kind of a mailable here. Okay, or I can do an anonymous class, I think also. New class, yeah, that implements the mailable. Let me see. It doesn't matter at the moment, but let me just remove that. I'm gonna do mailable. Okay, it won't work, of course, because this is not a mailable. You see, it requires the mailable contract, some kind of an implementation of the mailable, which means a mail. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you can either call your class, in this case I'm calling the mail facade, But if you add a service provider, for example, to image processor right here, you can just call that, let's say that I'm adding an attachment, and it's probably here on the mailable itself, the attachments, because I don't remember at the moment. Attach, yeah, probably there. Let's say if I'm adding an attachment, okay, and I can use that service because the handle method of this class is able to type hint that class, and the Laravel container is able to supply that, because this is, in this example, it's a very simple class. It doesn't have a complex dependency structure, so I'm able to use that instead of using, for example, image processor equals to new image processor. Sorry, processor. Okay, and I'm gonna fix my typo here. Okay, instead of using that and initializing the dependencies, I can use that here inside of the handle method. So this is basically what you need to know about the first queue, about the queue jobs that you create. And let's continue and discuss what else we need to pay attention to. Let me just remove all that. Remove that. Okay, so more gotchas. For example, when we said that we eager load the relationships. So when we pass a collection of users, for example, if this was a collection, an eloquent collection, okay, those relationships will not be serialized. Okay, only for a model it will be serialized. And this is logical because you don't want all collections with all the relationships to be serialized, because it will have to get a lot of data from the database and pass it to this function, which is enormous. Okay, and another gotcha is, if another actually trick to do, if you don't want, let's say you have a user, okay, and it's a very big data or a very big model object. So you can do a couple of stuff. You can do, for example, this, that user equals user without relations, okay? And that means basically that it will serialize that user without the relationships, if the relationships are very big and are not necessary for the job, you know. So it's better to do that without relations. Or if you are using PHP above PHP 8, you can do something like that. For example, without relations, I think, and we need to import that class. And pretty much what happens is the same like I did before. Let me see if I can see that from the class. Nope, can't see that. But what happens is that Laravel translates it to the code that I showed you before. It puts this, that user without relations. Okay, and this is just a property notation of PHP 8, and we can use that instead. Okay, some other gotchas. Now, just like I did on eloquent models, that it serialized them, just like I told you, we have to pay attention when we pass basically any data to the constructor, because it has to, because this is it will run as a closure. It will have to serialize it somehow. And for example, if you pass any binary data, you have to encode that data because it needs to be JSON encoded. This is how it serializes it. One other thing that I wanted to mention is basically if you have a scenario, because we said that when you dispatch that job, it goes to a bucket, and that bucket is waiting for more jobs. And as soon as a job comes there, depends on your queue listener, on your connection listener, that job is usually either immediately fired to be processed, or waits for some time. Sometimes you have scenarios where you can only allow one job to run or one job to be in that queue and not to dispatch. You have another interface, should be unique. Okay, what that means is that only one instance of that job will be on that bucket until it finishes, or until you put some kind of a specific time lock. Or you can either, let's say that you have a couple of daily emails that you want to send, but they depend on the user. So you can send them, but you can enforce that the user only gets one of that daily emails, and there will be no situation that the user gets 2 daily emails. And you can implement that. You will need to add a function here that gives a special unique key for the user. And to give that key, you need to implement a function called unique ID. Let me see if I can use PHP Storm for that, but no. So I'm gonna implement that function here, public function unique ID. And what this will do is will return a special key. So for example, like I told you, let's say that that daily email for a user, you only want one email per user, then you can return this, for example, user ID. And what will do, what that will accomplish us is that when that job is added to the bucket, then it will make sure that you won't add another job or dispatch another job with that unique ID. Okay, and after that job finishes, of course, it will be automatically released. And I gave you an example for daily emails, but it can happen on a weekly basis, for example, or other basis. You can also add a property here, unique for, and I think it's public property. Okay, for how many milliseconds, I think? Yeah, so basically, let's say we'll have 60 seconds, I think. It's not milliseconds. 60 seconds times 60. So it will, you cannot do 60 times 60, but let's say 1 hour. It will be unique for 1 hour. After that, it will be freed from the lock. So this is basically how you make sure to restrict that from dispatching if you already have a job on the queue. One other option that you have here besides that is, let's pretend you have a scenario where you have a QA team or debugging or some kind of other team, and the information here on that job is supposed to be private and not available to them, but you still want them to debug what happens, why is that not working. So you can use should be encrypted interface, and automatically all the serialized data here will be encrypted and not visible in terms of text, because it is visible if you look in the database, but it's still encrypted. Okay, and after Laravel retrieves that, it will be decrypted, of course, but when it's saved, it will be encrypted and not visible outside. We also have another option. For example, if we don't want to use the uniqueness of jobs, is to rate limit with Laravel rate limiter, and through the middleware we have to implement a function here which is not available at the moment, but we can create it, middleware, and this method, by the way, returns an array. Okay, so you will have an array of middlewares that you want the job to run through. Okay, you can rate limit it, you can make another filters or make sure that only one job runs without using the should be unique, or you can do whatever you want, just like route middleware with that job. Okay, you can stop that job from running if it reaches a certain condition. So basically that's it about this the structure of the jobs here. In this lesson we discussed a lot about the class structure of the job and how you can modify it to suit your needs. We discussed about the gotchas of using models, collections, and other data, for like binary data, for example. And we gave a couple of options how to limit the jobs through middleware or through the unique, should be unique interface. We are going to do an example with middleware later, so that's why I'm not working on that now, but we are going to use that also. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to continue on building our knowledge on Laravel Queues, and we are going to do some basic stuff for dispatching the jobs. And after we finish that lesson, we're going to start and building our image processing application, where we have buttons to upload an image and to process it in different ways via the queues. And we'll go from there, and we continue to develop our application to do more complex jobs on the queues. And at one point we're also going to cover what to do when we have dependencies between the queues and how to work with that. But first, let's finish the basics and we'll start building our app from here. Let me just commit the code for now, and don't know why it's that. Commit, created a job class. We remove that, make it like so, and let me reformat that. But just before that, sorry, yeah, I'm gonna reformat the next class. I'm gonna turn on the auto next commit, reformat the class, so it will be automatically. The optimization and the cleanup should happen automatically also, by the way. Okay, so how do we dispatch that job? We can go to a controller which is responsible for this view, which happens to be in controllers. Well, not here actually, since it will be in routes web, and it's a closure here that calls that view. But what we'll do, we'll delete everything from the view and only leave, let's say I'm going to delete that. I'm gonna leave that open, and yeah, I don't want that ugliness, so I'm going to remove a couple of stuff. Let me see. Documentation. Okay, I think I can remove that, and that. Okay, so I remove that, and I'm gonna do the dispatch from right here from the closure and not from the controller, but we can use the controller functions here as well. So what can I do? And let me go to the job itself to see what I need for the job. I need a user, okay, and yeah, I'm gonna first show you what happens because of the default Laravel queue connection, is synchronous. What happens? Okay, I'm gonna do dd here, so it will die right here, died inside main thread of execution. Okay, and we'll see how it works. I'm gonna go to my web file and I'm going to do a dispatch of daily emails dispatch, and I'm gonna do a user. I don't have a user actually, so I'm gonna remove that for now, just for the sake of that. I'm gonna remove the user, and I'm gonna remove the user here also. Okay, let's see what happens now. And as you can see, even though we dispatched it, sorry about that, and it had the interfaces. Let me remove that interface also, by the way. It had the should queue and queuable interfaces. It still depends on the driver, and the driver is synchronous. So it ran on the main thread of execution, which means it ran on the request of the user. Okay? When we, for example, will do a Redis test with Redis, we'll see that it doesn't happen. Or with the database, we'll see that it doesn't run on the main thread of execution. So I'm gonna leave that, and I'm gonna also do another function that I can use here, delay, and I'm going to use carbon minutes, add minutes, I think, yeah, 10 minutes. So I'm gonna delay it. So not only it's supposed to be queuable, it's also supposed to be delayable. Okay, why should I delay it? For example, if I know that my queue is, if I only want the emails to be sent 10 minutes after the user is, not a welcome email, I'm talking about some kind of a special promotion for the user, which I want to be sent after 10 minutes he registered, I can use that. Because let's say I don't have a special marketing service that I'm using, I only have that. So this is one of the solutions. Other use cases can vary, you know, you can use it for many reasons. If you know that your queue is very busy, you can just delay the jobs in a couple of minutes, and it will cause some kind of a, you're only delaying your bottleneck basically, but it still can help you a lot. So let's say I'm delaying it in 10 minutes and restart that, and still the same happens. Okay, let's say that I want to use not delay, I want, there is another option that I can use, but it won't work on all servers. It only works on a couple of servers, and I can do a dispatch after request. Okay, but it won't be delayed. As you see, I don't have another function here on that interface. Okay, this one worked because my service at the moment that I'm using, which is in Laravel sale, okay, here, okay, it works because this service has a fast CGI and other stuff that allow it. But if I'd be using PHP Artisan Serve, it won't work. Okay, so what else can I do? And you won't see, by the way, that it failed, but this is something you have to be mindful about. So I think that's the basics of how you dispatch a job. Of course, we're in a controller context, even though we are in a closure. I can do this dispatch and new daily emails like that also. Okay, and it should fail, sorry, it should fail here. Route file registrar dispatch. Yeah, sorry for mistaking, for doing that mistake. It won't work here, only the dispatch will work here. Okay, this dispatch will work only from the controller, so sorry for that. And let me do it like this, and yeah, that works. So that's the basics of the dispatching, and we're going to start and build our application, which a user, but we won't build the full flow of the user. We'll only focus on the queues and on the jobs here, on the queue jobs. So the user will be able to upload the picture and we will do background job processing for that picture to different sizes, and we will see what happens when we use the synchronous driver connection and what happens when we use the Redis connection, for example, or the database connection, how it affects the performance of your application. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I'll see you on the next lesson where we start to build our application. Hi, and welcome to this lecture where we are going to preview on what we'll be working on in the next couple of sections. And just before that, I went ahead and did a couple of things. Let me show you. I went ahead and issued an npm install and then npm run dev in order for my Vite and front-end assets to be compiled. I also installed Laravel Breeze with Alpine and Livewire components, so we'll have a easier way of working with the JavaScript and the Blade files and the file input. So you will see all that in I'm gonna run that, sorry. You will see all that, of course, in the git commit. Let me just come back to the code. When you load the commits, when you view the git log, you see all the files that I changed. Sorry, not that. When you go to git log, okay, you will see all the files that I added. And I re-added the upload component, of course, after I added Breeze, because Breeze removed that component, but that doesn't matter. The important thing is that this is not the focus of the course, so, you know, I don't want to waste your time on that. But I will show you what I did. I added Vite resources here. I added the component here in the welcome page, which is this component, okay, where you give your email and the upload and the file, and it sends you that email with the file, okay. And this component comes from here, from Livewire, and I made the email and the photo are required and validated. For example, this has to be a valid email address, and this is maximum 1 megabyte image. And after it finishes, it's stored in the storage app photos location under the original name that I gave it. And actually we don't need that because this is a Livewire dispatch for events, but we're going to call dispatch like that, okay. And we're going to call dispatch like that, and we're going to run, besides that, we're going to create a new job class, which will process that image before it sends to the email. So basically we're gonna call it image processor. I think it's called like that, image processor, with the name of the image and the email of the user. So this is how we'll call it, okay. Let me first create that. This is the Livewire component that I created. Make job image processor. Okay, I'm gonna delete the old job, by the way, daily emails, since this was just for tests. I don't need that. Can delete that here, and I'm gonna go to image processor. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, okay. So what do I need here? I said I need the email and the photo location. Now I could pass the photo as a binary, as a base 64 encoded, but I rather, and it would work here, of course, because it serializes the closure and deserializes it when it comes to handle the job itself. But I rather pass the path of the photo and work on that instead of that serialized in a big image. So that's what I'll do. And if we'll have the time, maybe I'll pass the serialized version. I'm gonna do a dispatch from here, or I'm gonna do an image processor dispatch, and here I'm gonna pass this.email and this, sorry, I'm gonna need the storage path. Let's see what I have on app path, I'm not sure. Application folder. Yeah, that's not that. So I'll need the storage path, and it will be under photos, app, photos, and right here, oh sorry, I don't actually need that since I'm gonna do that from the job itself. So here I only need the file name. Okay, let me do that. Sorry, let me come here, and I said photo name. Let me just fix that so it will be clearer. Email and photo name, and file path. This is the photo that will handle this photo name. Okay, and let me just dd that, and since we're using the synchronous version, I should be able to see that even though it is from Livewire. Okay, let me check that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do an image and send file. Okay, so you see that does work. It takes the correct path, storage, app, photos, mini course, which is excellent. The next phase is to proceed with that dispatch. I'm gonna do a processing on that image. First of all, I'm gonna do a simple processing to 3 sizes, and then I'm gonna create a mailable and attach that to the mail that I'm sending to the user. First of all, I'm gonna create the mailable. Artisan make mail, send user photo. Okay, I'm gonna go to send user photos, reformat that, and let's see, send user photos, get the message content and attachments. Okay, I'm gonna send that as an attachment. Okay, so let's say, and I do have MailPit here just to catch those emails. Let's do let's do a temporary check. Okay, I'm gonna do mail to this.email, and I'm gonna do not queue. I can do that on a specific queue bucket, by the way, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm gonna do a send a mailable, and here I'm gonna do a new send user photos. Here I'm gonna pass the file path, or rather, yeah, I think this is also serialized. Yeah, so I'm gonna pass, let me try to attach it directly before I'm passing anything to that. Okay, I'm gonna make it send user photo, make it as a variable, and mail to send. Okay, just make that so it will be easier on the eyes. Send user photo, attach, and I can do a file string like that, file path. Okay, so let's test that. We have MailPit open, and let's do that now. I'm gonna do, for example, fail to fail, mini course, and send that file. And the view is not found. Let me disable that since I don't need a view, and I'm not sure that it created a view, by the way, for that mail. Yeah, I don't see it. Those are Breeze and Livewire views. Let me check something. No views are created here by default, so maybe I can just delete that. Return new content. Let me see what's content. As a view, HTML text markdown with an HTML string. Well, text. Let me try with text. Hello world. And let's check that now, if that works. Gonna select the file again, gonna send the file. No, it looks for a view. Okay, so let me check on the mailable. What can I do? Well, I can actually create a simple view, and that's it. That will close it. So I'm gonna come to resources, views. I'm gonna create a new view, and I'm gonna use Laravel helper. Make view, welcome email. Okay, I'm gonna use that welcome email. Page 1. Hello, those are your images that was generated on our server. Okay, let me close that. Now everything should work, so let's test that. For now the emails are not sent, of course. Let's see. I'm gonna send that, and it's supposed to redirect me. Oh, I think I didn't do a redirect. Okay, so let's see the mail that has been sent. Okay, you can see that everything worked. It attached that email, attached that image, and that's excellent. Okay, let me see if, yeah, everything is okay here. I'm supposed to get an attachment. Yeah, so that's cool. That's very cool. Let me just add a redirect to refresh that page after it finishes, and we'll continue. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to continue and work on our component and the queues. So I went ahead and added another Livewire component here to display a message after when it uploads, when it processes the job actually, and it displays it immediately since the emails we have no TCP/IP lag. We have no round trip that it's been sent to a far distant server, so it happens immediately, and that's why you see this this flash message immediately. Since this is on my local computer, it works fast, so you don't see the lag. But if I would be calling Amazon email server or Amazon queue or using something like that, then you would see that it will lag for a couple of seconds until, for example, until it processes that image to different sizes, until it sends the email. This is why we are working with the queues from the first place, by the way. And I know I mentioned it in a couple of places. So this is the component that I added, okay? And this one we already saw, and this one we already saw. And if we go to this component, I'm using Alpine.js here also, by the way, so it will be nicer in terms of JavaScript. This is the alert I added, and yeah, that's basically it. We're going to start to work on the background jobs now, and we'll see on the next couple of lectures what happens when we have a couple of dependencies between background jobs. What happens when we have, let's say that we'll split this task to 3. We'll make 3 image sizes on 3 different background jobs, and the last job will be responsible to send that to an email. The last job will also be a background job. So let's continue on with that. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to install the image manipulation library that we'll work with. We don't have to install the extension. This package works with the GD library or imagic, and I believe that Sail already has GD library installed, pre-installed. So if we'll need to install it, we'll add it. I'm gonna add it to the Docker container, and I'm gonna skip on that part for you because it's not totally relevant. And the next thing that we'll need to see is that this job currently is handling the image processing job. And as I told you, I'm gonna split that image processing into 3 jobs, 3 sizes or 2 sizes, and the last one will be dependent on we're gonna do it in parallel. So the last one will be dependent on those jobs to finish before it sends the email to the user with the attachments. So first of all, we're gonna do it here on that class, and after that we're gonna split it. Let me just install that library first. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna open another library. Okay, I'm gonna composer require it, and that should be relatively quick. And after, yeah, it finished. Let me see, what else do I need? Let me just copy that. Resize place. I don't need the watermark. I just need to save it. Okay. Oh, wait, here it says which libraries, by the way, needed. Okay. So I'm gonna go to my code before I attach it. I'm gonna copy that, reformat the file. Okay, resize, don't need the watermark. I'm gonna need to encode it, save it, and yeah, we'll add it. Encode it, I think, let me see. Oh, sorry, I need to import that class and import that. I think I can do new driver like that, GD. Okay, let me see 1 second what happens with this. Oh, it's mailable, so that's super nice. I can just attach it. Oh, sorry. I need to see what happened with this. Save, encoded interface, and file. Okay, let me see, file. Okay, maybe I can still attach that. I'm gonna save it as output, and I'll need the file name, which comes from photo name. Okay. This is that photo name, and let me see what that does. Okay, resize. Okay, so I said we're gonna do 2 or 3 background jobs, and after that we're gonna do the 4th one that will be dependent on those. So either I'm going to run them from here, for example, and I'm not gonna call it image processor, I'm gonna call it by different name. Either I run them directly, I'm gonna issue those jobs directly from here, which will be like the controller of those jobs. So I'll see what we'll do, but let's start with that. Let's see that this works, and we'll continue from that. Okay. Refresh that. Oh, I think I need to install something. No, don't need. But for some reason that's stuck. Let me see what is missing on my end. I don't think that something is missing. Possibly it got stuck on my computer. Yeah, let me refresh that. That will turn off the Docker containers. And yeah, I see that it got stuck. Let me force close it. And it doesn't close. That's closed. And that's closed. Okay, let me see what's the issue with that. Sail stop, I think it's called. It haven't stopped the container yet, so that is weird. I'm gonna have to stop it from here, from Docker. Let me just stop that. Oh, it's waiting for the queue workers to stop. Let me see if I can stop that with force stop. Or I'm gonna have to log into the container and stop that from the container. Okay, probably not. So what I'm going to do, try to log in with the shell. Okay, I'm gonna do up and see if that's working. And attached to the containers, I'm gonna do shell and see if I can attach to the shell. Doesn't look like it, that I can attach to the shell, and it's possible that I need to kill Docker on my computer in order for that to work, so I'll see in a minute. Yeah, so I'm gonna kill Docker, restart it, and continue to the video. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we continue and work on our jobs. I have gone and restarted Docker, so it works now, and I run Vite again. So let us continue and let us check if that works, if the first thing that we changed there. Let me refresh that and let's see if that works. Okay, something is running and I'm unable to decode input. Okay, I probably forgot to change that. Let's go here and I'm gonna read. Let me see if I can read the file path directly from here. Let's see. Cannot image the path. Directory doesn't exist. Okay. So I'm gonna do something similar to what I did here. Let's see. Let's say I'm gonna do photo path, and here I'm gonna do also photo path, but with different name, and I want to get only the name here, not with the extension, since this will change. I'm gonna do, instead of photos, you know what, I'm gonna use photo path and attachment path, attachments path, and I'll see that. Let me do jump words, jump word, expand word. Let me see why it's that. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna leave that for now. I'm gonna do it on my free time. I'm gonna do a directory here, output. Okay, so come here, photos, output, attachment path. I'm gonna put here attachment paths, and I'm gonna first try that, and I can remove file extension, I think it's called. No. Okay, I'm gonna look for it in a second. Let me just confirm that this works. Okay. Okay. Let me see what I have here. It's a JPEG of the attachment, but of the original attachment, I think. Let me create one attachment, save it here, and attach the encoded media type to string to file pointer, or let's not to file pointer, since I'm not sure that the attachment works on pointers. So let's do that. Let's do also, let me take that and put it here, by the way, so I can attach multiple files. I'm gonna do attach the first file. I'm gonna size 300 and attach the second file. Okay. Photo name 300. Let's see if that will work. 100. Okay, let's see. Not sure that works. Yeah, and it issued an error. Logs. Let me see if I have the error here. I can check that. Must not contain null bytes. Okay. Where does it fail? Well, let's see. Attach. Let me see if that fails here in this section. Nope. File name must not contain any null bytes. I do wonder. Probably doesn't work with that attachment. So what I can do, I can get the path to string. I'm not sure that will work. Let me see what that returns. Yeah, the file pointer. Let me see that. Nope, won't work. Path info, I can get the path info. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is get the file path from here and put put it here. And let's test that first, and then we'll continue. Yeah, that looks like it works, but the file is incorrect, so it won't work. Let me fix that. Let me get the correct attachment here. File output path, and right here what I do need to do is, since this is already to JPEG, I think that I'll need to remove the JPEG here. So let me confirm that. Let me get path info, this photo name, and path info file name, I think. So let's see if that will fix it. And no, doesn't fix that. The file name is correct, but something else is missing. File output path. Let me check the documentation here. Oh, I see it. It's also with JPEG. Okay. .jpg. Let me just add it here and finish with that. And okay, let's test that again. And yeah, that works. You see that resized the image. Didn't save aspect ratio, but that's okay. On 100, the height is 100. I wonder if I have documentation here. Let me see. What can I get from resizing that? Aspect. Okay. Image scale. Image scale, but where is the aspect ratio? Because what I'm doing resize. Let's try scale. Maybe that will work better. And I'm gonna do the second option also. I'm gonna scale to 300, save it to JPEG, get the output path, file output path, 300.jpg, and get that also. So I do have redundancy here, and that's okay because I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna output and extract that to a different job, and this job will run as a function of how many sizes I want. So let me close that, and let me come here, send the file, and see what I'm getting here now. Okay, now I'm getting two files, and they're much better, but the quality is pretty lame, but the aspect ratio is fine. And I think I do have some parameters here to control the quality. Let me see if I'll find something. Yeah, unfortunately they don't have anything to... I've tested the quality parameter here, but it didn't help. So I'm gonna stay with that and do something else. Okay, I'm gonna extract those into, and I'm gonna extract it outside of the job, of course, outside of the constructor of the new job, since this also should be serialized, and it won't work if I'll use it in the constructor. Only the file name and the email will work. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to extract it now and continue after that. Hi, and welcome to this lesson where we continue to work on the image processing and send in the emails via the background jobs. And before we do continue, I want to show you what happens when you try to add those classes, for example, or some kind of data to the constructor and not the handle method. And you'll see the error. I added this image manager and the manager read to this.image in the constructor of the job, and you will see immediately what happens. Sometimes it's not clear by Laravel errors where that error happens, but you will see right now that the exception thrown is a serialization exception. And it points out that in Livewire it happens here when I dispatch the job. If I open the vendor frames, you can see exactly where it happens, and you see that it fails when I'm creating the object payload and working on the serialize method. Okay, so that is usually the error that you receive when you just getting started to work with the queues and you don't know. But when you remember that the serialization is a very important part of the job queue, of the queue classes, then it will be easier for you, since you will put on the constructor only strings and some basic stuff, and the job itself, the major part of the job, will be on the handle method. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that error before we proceed. Let me close that, and we will proceed this on this lesson to take that big image processing job and split it to multiple jobs. And I don't remember if I mentioned it, but queues or background jobs can be used in the kernel file of Laravel, not only as a dispatchable action, but you can use them when you use the task scheduler to do, for example, daily reports or hourly reports or 5-minute reports. So just wanted to point that out so I won't forget for later to mention that. And basically how you do that is you create a job like that one, and you come to kernel, to console kernel, of course, and let me reformat that, and you schedule that command. For example, schedule job, not command, new image processor. Let's pretend that this is a report. Let me do something else. You know what? New hourly report. Okay, you can schedule that per hour. So this is another use case for Laravel Queue jobs. And just before we'll continue, let me commit that. So let me see what I removed here. Removed the bug I created for testing purposes. Okay, so how do we split that job into multiple jobs? Now we can use Laravel batch jobs, and we can use another way to do that, and I'm gonna show you both ways, because Laravel batch jobs and chain jobs are very nice, and the other package that is called Laravel Venture came to existence before Laravel didn't have that option. Laravel Venture didn't have that option to do that, but this package has much more functionality than the basic batch and chain jobs that Laravel Queue has. I can do dependency tracking here and more stuff, so we'll see that when we get there. But first, let's break that job into multiple jobs and dispatch them. So what I am going to do, since I cannot put that in a constructor, but the job that I will extract depends on the file name, which I already have, and it depends on the size. The size is the parameter. So I either can do it in a for each loop, which I don't want, since I do want to run that a couple of times, so you can see what happens when I run that job in parallel, or I can do the other thing, which I'm gonna do now. Okay, I'm gonna create a new job, PHP artisan make job. I'm gonna call it image resize, and I'm gonna add a new job, image resize, and send email. Well, send images in email actually, because I'm gonna extract that also, and this will be the controller of the jobs. So let me go to my image resize job, and let me see what I need here. Save and attach to the mail. Well, I'm not gonna attach it now, I'm only gonna save it. So what I need here is the file path and size. Reformat that and initialize those properties. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna read the file path from this. Oh, I do need the attachment path, and the attachment path I can just put that once here, and I think that's file name actually, not file path. So let me see, attachment path, I can take that, photo path, I can take that, yeah. So let me copy that. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna change that parameter, sorry. File name, okay. And let's see, oh, that should be file name also. Nope, only that parameter changed, okay. File name. And what else do I need? I have file name here. Size is this size. Attachment path I can use let me see, file path and attachment path, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do another parameter, this file path and this attachment path, but I don't need this for the attachment, I only need that file name. Okay, let me add those. And let me just remove that for consistency. File path and remove that. Okay, so now let's see what else do I need. And those are strings, by the way, so strings in integer, so that's okay. I'm gonna do this attachment path, not attachments, attachment path, and yeah, that should be good. So I'm gonna test that before I'm gonna split it into more functions. Okay, and send user photo, I'm gonna remove that. I think I can remove all of that. Let me just confirm that. I don't need that also. But what do I need to do? I need to dispatch for 100 size. Okay, image resize, dispatch, and I need, let me see what I need. I need the file name and size. Okay, so this photo name and size is 100. And here, since they are all synchronized, that should work. File output path. And file output path should be like that with the file name. Okay. Attachment path. This photo name. And yeah, that should be it. Okay, let's see if that works. And then we can continue and abstract more of that. Unable to decode input. Okay, you can't find the file name. Let me see if I have what I'm passing here. Yeah, probably not. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna dd the file name and see what happens, what is wrong. Image resize, I have the file name here, file path, attachment path, and it fails here. Let me dd file name, this file path, and this attachment path. Let me dd that. Okay, file name is okay, file path is okay, attachment path is okay, but I'm missing the file here. Attachment path, maybe not okay. What I'm reading, so this fails here on file name. So what I need to do here is to get the second parameter, which is file path. File path. Okay, I'm gonna do attachment path, get the file name without the extension, and add the JPEG here. Okay, that should work, that should fix it. Unable to open a path. Well, it fails on the user photo, and let me see why. First of all, because the name is wrong, but let me see why does it get that name. Attach file output path. Probably because of that, of course, because I didn't do this manipulation like I did there. So let me get from file output from, yeah, is that photo name. Now that should work. And yeah, that worked. And that's okay. Size 100, that's okay. What else can I do? I think I'm gonna do size 600 just to test it. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna do 600, 500, and 400. So I'm gonna do the first one is 600, 500, 400. No, 500, 600, and 700. I'm gonna add 500. Let's see if I can attach like that. Yeah, I can attach like that. So this is what I'm going to do. Copy that and paste that here. Remove that, of course. Okay, let me test that again. $500 doesn't work. And why is that not working? Let me see what files did it create. Let's go to storage directory, output, mini course 100, 100, 300. Where is the 500 and 600 files, I wonder? Yeah, nowhere to be found. That's weird. That's weird. Let me see. Let me disable that. Gonna refresh it. Take the file. Send it, but it won't be sent. I just want to see which files it's created, and I don't see any files. So I wonder if I'm saving that. Yeah, I am saving that. Oh, this was the problem. I'm saving that to the same location. So yeah, I'm gonna do minus this.size. Okay, that should fix it. And let me uncomment that. Let me see that now. Send it to new basic user, send the file, and I should be getting, yeah, I'm getting those now. 500, 600, 700. Okay, excellent. That's excellent. And you can see already that it took 1 second on my computer, and even though this is from the same network, so you can imagine how much time it will take to process multiple people's files, images, avatars, or video transcoding, you know, whatever, and then to send the attachment. If it's a big attachment, we don't, you know, it can take hours, but unless it's capped or limited at Gmail or other provider. But you can understand my point that it takes a lot of time. So I want to thank you and continue in the next section. In this section, we learned how to split that job. In this lecture, we learned how to split that job. In the next lecture, we are going to do something different. We are going to take that, and we only split it to image resizer here, but I'm going to do, like I told you, the dependency tracking between those files, and we are going to run that in parallel, get the outputs, and then send the email. And I think we're still going to use that as the controller, but we'll see. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hi, and welcome to this lesson. We're going to discuss on job chaining, which is relatively new technique in Laravel Queue jargon, but it's very useful. And just before we start, I do remember the one extra use case for encrypted jobs. And if we'll take a look at what happens when we use the should be encrypted interface, which is a new interface. If we'll take a look here at Queue, and we'll follow that function, what happens here is that the Laravel code if the job should be encrypted, it checks if I have an encryptor class in the container, in the service container Laravel uses, and then it encrypts after it serializes a clone of the job. Basically means that it's not mutating the job, but it serializes the job. So why another use case that I remembered is that for some regulatory laws and process and compliance, security compliance mostly, you can use that to your advantage, because usually they require, for example, if you do PCI DSS to be a payment processor, they require you to have separation of database and encryption. So you can use that because it will make your job encrypted and not visible to outside world, even if someone tampers with that. So that's another use case that I remembered. And okay, so how do you use the job chaining and why? First of all, you use it to sequence jobs. Okay, what that means, if you have a couple of jobs, one after another, that should be in some specific order, then instead of dispatching from your controller, let's imagine that this is my controller, and you will see why this is a problem. At the moment, the job here is synchronous, which means that if I have another job here and another job here, they will run one after the other. But as soon as I'm gonna change this one, let me search for queue connection, to Redis or database or beanstalk, whatever, as soon as I'm gonna change it to asynchronous queue, I'm gonna have race conditions, because this job, even though it's one after the other in the code, this job could run before this one. That depends on which queue. For example, if this is on queue, let me call that low priority queue. Okay, and this is on also on I'm gonna switch that, high priority. Okay, I switched the lines. Let's say this runs before this, but this bucket is for high priority queues. So I'm gonna do some calculation, just pretend, not really, but pretend that I'm doing some calculation here that will make that job run before that job. So you'll see, if you have a sequence, if it's important that the jobs will run in order, then you have to do something else. Either you wait and poll for the job to finish, which is wasteful, because it wastes your resource, your threads, your process. Either you do something else. And this is what job chaining came to solve. I'm not sure since which Laravel version that is, but it's a nice addition to the language. And previously you could mitigate it, as I said, with a couple of stuff. For example, you can use should be unique and make sure that you have only one job on that queue, on specific queue. Okay, with that, let's say that this was, I'm gonna show you what I mean. This was PDF processor and this was word processor. Okay, so all of them would be on the same queue, for example. Okay, on queue, same. And what that thing does is basically to mitigate the issue of the first job didn't run before the second job didn't run before the first job. Okay, but as soon as you have more workers for the same queue, and we'll get to workers when we'll have the lesson about queue workers, you will see what happens, because we won't do one worker for queue usually. That depends on how important that queue is or what job is in that queue. But let's pretend that this queue is very important, so we won't have one worker. We can have 5, 6, 8 workers for that queue. And that means that if we'll dispatch it, even though they are on the same queue, this one will be dispatched to this worker, this one will be dispatched to this worker, and this one will be dispatched to this worker. And again, we have the problem of race conditions, and we don't know which one of them will finish first. So this is a problem that the job chaining came to solve, and we'll solve that. We're gonna do that. Let me just delete all of that. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how to use that. Another thing that we need to take a mental note to ourselves is how do we handle failures in the job chain, because we can put it in try and catch, and I'm not sure that it will catch it, but we can do multiple. Here it won't catch it for sure, because this, as soon as it dispatches to a worker and not to synchronous job, I'm out of context in the PHP. I won't be in context, so it won't catch it. Okay, so you can imagine the issue that we'll have. So let's just start. I'm gonna remove that also, by the way, and I'm gonna use the dispatch. First of all, let me delete that. I don't need that. Okay, I'm gonna use the dispatch here inside this queue. Okay, so you will see what I mean.